Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Trump's audacious display of mastery of the populist arts yesterday as he went to a rally, announced that he was selling out US steel to foreign interests, something he'd promised not to do, and his predecessor blocked, and got the people and steel workers cheering it. Understanding this process absolutely essential if people in any country are to work out how to fight malicious populism. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So Donald Trump held a rally in Pennsylvania yesterday. He had steel workers, or at least people we assume are steel workers, all dressed up in orange hard hats, would you believe, acting as his backing group for a speech in which he announced that US steel was going to become foreign. And they cheered. They chanted, USA, USA. Oh, it was like he'd made America great again. But how did this happen? Trump is standing firmly on a platform of bringing American companies back to America to manufacture their products, even though doing so would treble the costs of these products. How does he sell an existing American company already manufacturing in America to a foreign company and then boast about it in a state where thousands of people are employed by that company or the wider supply chain and get crowds to cheer? If Biden had done this, there would have been a furious reaction, not the least from Trump himself. He had said he was totally against the acquisition of US steel by Japan's Nippon Steel, yet here he was, authorising the sale. Not on the quiet either. Oh, no. There's no signing off on it and then announcing a dead cat story to distract the media. No. He went to a steel state, made the announcement at a massive rally surrounded by steel workers. And they loved it. How does he do it? Well, it'll take experts to really break down the details, but you could see some of the devices being employed to go on the attack here. He made a series of announcements which, would be popular in order to prevent his audience actually thinking about it. He announced he was raising the 25% tariffs on steel imports to 50%. Now, the Guardian article on the story did mention it's unclear how this might affect the UK, who just agreed a tariff reduction deal with Trump. However, the loose deal was said to future-proof us against future tariff rises in certain areas, so it shouldn't actually affect us. We don't actually sell them that much anyway, no one really cares. And if you're wondering that it's odd to announce an escalation of tariffs just after a court ruled his tariff program illegal, because it's Congress who are supposed to decide that, not the president, in actual fact, he does have the authority to determine some tariffs, including on steel. So if Trump has authorised 50% tariffs on steel imports for next week, that's what's going to happen regardless of any ongoing legal process, until, of course, he backs down. Taco. But to the critic, I can't believe he said something else that's going to invite more taco stories. But anyway, to the critically thinking, it must seem fairly bizarre for a president to announce that he's raising tariffs to 50%, and he said nobody's going to get around that, in the same speech where he says he's selling a major US steel company to foreigners. But in the minds of his followers, tariffs protects domestic production from foreign imports, so it's good for jobs, right? And perhaps most Americans don't really care who owns the company as long as the jobs are in America, which is fine until you realise that because it's now going to be a foreign company, its focus will be on the Japanese economy. Yes, it will carry on supplying jobs for American production. Of course it will, but that will be it. I thought Trump cared about the balance of trade. This is a move which risks US steel exports in future, because a Japanese company is not going to fight to base production in the US for an export market. It will want those jobs closer to home. Trump's main irritation seems to be other countries not buying as much American produce. This is a move which increases that problem. But Trump also threw in a few sweeteners as well. He said US Steel would remain an American company. No, it won't. It's going to be a Japanese company. Oh, it'll still be called US Steel, but it won't be owned by an American company. It's going to be foreign owned as soon as this deal goes through. The United Steelworkers Union apparently is against the deal. They're not convinced that there are real guarantees that the promised investment will be made or be long-term. And indeed, they'd be right to be wary. The investment will happen. But the long-term investment, yeah, I've got an issue about that. See, in a world where America is hitting steel imports with 50% tariffs, that same world is going to apply countermeasures against US steel. I mean, major steel producers and users are going to have to in order to avoid looking weak to their own public. This is a deal which means America will only produce what it needs. Now, it needs a lot, of course it does. So it's not like US steel industry is just going to disappear. However, that steel will then be more expensive if you're freezing out other markets. Because why does America import steel, right? There might be an extent to which America can't physically produce enough steel, but if that were the case, this isn't going to help produce those jobs. If it's possible to produce more steel in the US and create more steel jobs, then it must be able to. So it must be purely about economics, the cost of doing so. So there's already a higher cost associated with American pay. Americans charge more than steel workers in some other countries. But also, if you protect an industry with a massive tariff firewall around it, you're allowing US producers to then charge higher prices. See, the whole point of tariffs is to keep out foreign competition, at least in terms of the way Trump uses tariffs. So what happens when the competition is crowded out? Well, you don't have to be competitive with your prices. And who are you selling to? Other Americans. So the cost of construction in America increases. The best case scenario here is that a few extra jobs are created, no doubt to great fanfare, but that the cost of building across the whole of America increases and exports start to suffer, worsening that balance of trade. A double whammy, which is part of the reason why countries in general try to get rid of high tariffs with trade agreements. Trump embraces the tariffs, which is going to make American development very expensive. He also told them that every US steelworker will soon get a bonus of $5,000. Oh, to great cheers. And assuming this isn't a lie, it's absolute peanuts. There's not that many steelworkers in America. It costs nothing, that. For an easy way of selling off their futures without raising suspicions. Oh, here's $5,000. It's a bit like the Simpsons episode when they get rid of their dental care for a glass of beer. That's what this is. Because this is how it'll work. Initially, the investment promise will be there. Yes, there will be investment. There will be more jobs. Trump is making moves to hurt steel imports. So it makes sense that American steel production will increase because America needs steel. But because imports will be excessively priced now, American-based steel workers can just jack up their prices. This, as I say, increases costs for the construction industry, but then they will pass on those higher prices to their customers and so on until ordinary Americans are footing the bill. No matter how the water flows, raising tariffs always ends up with the public picking up the tab. After a while, and demand for steel settles down to some sort of equilibrium, given the lack of cheap options for construction, that will hamper development because not all end consumers can pay those higher prices. So the new Japanese owners of US steel will start to look at efficiency savings. So for the next few years, they will be quids in. But the thing about big corporations, their executives are always under pressure to make higher and higher profits. Now, if the tariffs hold, let's say he doesn't back down, let's say there is no taco dance on steel, yes, there will be more need for American-produced steel in America, and those producers can then raise their prices in an uncompetitive market. Easy profits. But after that equilibrium is reached, the way to increase profits further, and there's always a demand to constantly increase profits, will be more efficient practices. That means job losses or wage suppression, or both. But by the time that happens, Trump will be long gone, either dead or attacking the president of the day for being stupid enough to be in place to deal with the consequences of his actions this week. But it was an absolute masterclass of populist politics. Trump stood on a stage selling American steelworkers' futures, and he got them to cheer for it. He also guaranteed that some other mug will carry the can for it. This isn't something that bites him on the arse in a couple of years while he's still in office. He dodges the bullet completely on this. It's remarkable. And the only way to ever counter this sort of thing in any country is to learn how it works and fight against it with ultimately better communications. Because things like this always come down to communicating with the public, don't they? And although Trump is obviously a moron, and he's clearly losing what is left of his brain. He's never been clever in the past, but he's clearly degenerating. He's not interested in spending time to learn how things really work. He's all about the quick answers. But where he has absolutely undoubted mastery is in the art of the blag. He will sell your future, and he won't keep it quiet. He won't do it on the quiet and distract. He will shout it at you. He will boast about it, and he will get you to thank him for it. And these powers were on full display yesterday. And instead of far-right populists elsewhere learning his lessons and using them against us, we should really be learning how to marshal the same techniques for people's good. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.